apparently their plan is to actually send one of these to the moon to build some kind of lunar base.
Hang on. So why is it building houses in Australia? Is it backpacking for a year before its lunar career takes off? Is it going to do some fruit picking and then go to Bali?
The AI fix a digital zoo. Smart machines, what will they do? Flies to Mars or bake a bad cake? World domination, a silly mistake. Bots with brains.
Hello, and welcome to episode 71 of the AI Fix, your weekly dive headfirst into the bizarre and sometimes mind-boggling world of artificial intelligence. My name's Cluley.
And I'm Mark Stockley.
Mark, what are you talking about on today's episode?
I'm going to be talking about the extraordinary power demands of AI.
And I'm going to be asking, why do we find it so easy to exploit robots?
But first, the news. Human coders are toast.
DoorDash's new robot delivery driver has puppy dog eyes and your job.
Man punishes GPT-5 by getting it to talk to condiments.
Elon Musk announces he's building Grokipedia.
User builds 5 million parameter small language model inside Minecraft.
Giant spider caught building a house in Australia.
What's that got to do with AI? It's just standard for Australia, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, I'll try again. Giant robot spider caught building a house in Australia. It turns out regular spiders in Australia just weren't scary enough. They weren't scary enough. And so they decided to make one that was the size of a small car and give it construction skills. And this spider, which they've called Charlotte, and I can see what they've done there. What they've tried to do is they've tried to give it a friendly spider name from a children's book to make us forget that it was a thing of nightmares. This is a hexapod robot that can 3D print a 200 square metre house in 20...
Hang on, did you say hexapod?
Yeah, that means it's got 6 legs, not 8, doesn't it? So it's not a spider. So that's all right then.
It's a robot fly.
It's
a giant robot fly. It's immediately less scary.
In all the promotion, it's been described as a spider, but actually, it's a giant insect with 6 legs. Charlotte's makers, Crest Robotics, they say Charlotte aims to advance lunar explorations and provide low-cost, low-carbon housing capabilities on Earth. That's
so
right.
Hang on. So why is it building houses in Australia? Is it backpacking for a year before its lunar career takes off? Is it going to do some fruit picking and then go to Bali?
So apparently their plan is to actually send one of these to the moon to build some kind of lunar base. And if you go to the Crest Robotics website, you can see some, an animation, let's be honest, it's not a video, of this giant robot in action building things.
It looks very impressive in the sense that it's a cartoon of something that might exist in the future. I'm revising what I thought about it being a spider. It does have its knees above its head. But the really peculiar thing is, it seems to come in 2 parts. So you've got this weird, futuristic-looking spider thing, which seems to just be thumping the earth most of the time. And then it's tethered just to a car with a giant, thick plastic lead.
Do you think the truck is for carrying its 2 spare legs, which it may have forgotten?
So there's so much news today that I've smushed 3 stories into one. And they're all about computer programming. So if you're a professional computer programmer or you're thinking about becoming one, it might be time to sign up for that Introduction to Plumbing course at your local college, because none of this is good news for you. So first up, OpenAI's GPT-5 turned up at the recent 2025 International Collegiate Programming Contest World Finals.
Right.
And it wiped the floor with all the humans.
When you say it wiped the floor with all the humans, you've got to be careful when you're talking about AI. Did it literally pick up the humans and start wiping them across the floor like a mop?
Not this year, but don't hold your breath. Anyway, the competition involved 139 universities from about 100 countries, and every one of them was thrashed by GPT-5, which got a perfect score of 12 out of 12.
Wow.
Google Gemini 2.5 DeepThink also turned up. It solved 10 out of 12 problems, which would have put it second in the human competition.
Yeah.
But one model that didn't turn up was Claude's Sonnet, which is probably just as well for the humans and GPT-5, because Anthropic has just released Claude Sonnet 4.5, which it describes as the best coding model in the world. It's so good it beats every other AI on the SWE Bench coding benchmark. That's the one that had the amusing chart on the GPT-5 launch. Anthropic has also, with Claude Sonnet 4.5, addressed one of the main complaints that people have about AI coders, which is that they're fine when their projects are short and simple, but they go to pieces when you give them a long task to do.
Yes.
But in its launch announcement, Anthropic says it's observed Claude maintaining focus for more than 30 hours on complex multi-step tasks.
How long do you think the typical programmer manages to maintain focus?
Well, I happen to know the answer to that. It's about 3 hours.
Why would anyone hire a human programmer anymore if AI is getting this good? It's just a rhetorical question for any programmers listening if need to consider their career in plumbing.
The last vestige of hope for human coders at the moment is just the idea that, okay, AI is good at benchmarks, it's good at coding in tests, it's good at winning things like the ICPC. But actually, in the real world, it actually doesn't make any difference. It doesn't actually make developers more productive. And that doesn't seem to be true either. So a new paper, Intuition to Evidence, measuring AI's true impact on developer productivity, tracked 300 developers for a year.
Right.
As they use an AI for writing and reviewing code. And the results, if you are planning a career in computer programming, are not encouraging. So the paper measured a 31% decrease in the time to review pull requests, a 28% increase in the volume of code that was shipped, and a 61% increase in the amount of code shipped by the top users.
So, joking aside, for software developers who might be considering a new career, I mean, we've joked about plumbing and things. Yeah. It seems to me you also can't get a job building a house in Australia or indeed the moon any longer. Well, here's another job which it looks like AI and the robots are about to take away from you, because DoorDash, those delivery people, they have developed the DoorDash Dot.
When great hunger meets great innovation, there is only one robot for the job.
It is apparently an autonomous electric-powered delivery robot designed for local deliveries. It reaches speeds of up to 20 miles per hour, Mark. It's about 1/10 the size of a car.
So it's a ground-based missile.
Well, more or less, yes, with a payload, with a little package in it. It will zoom down bike lanes, roads, sidewalks, so, woe betide anyone else trying to use those. But what's actually going to capture people's imagination about this and make them think that this is entirely harmless rather than the end of civilization as we know it, is that it looks sickeningly cute. It's got two great big lamps as eyes. It's got this sort of a minion-style way of talking. So it kind of goes, oh, Stanley Tang, who is the co-founder and head of DoorDash Labs, says you don't always need a full-size car to deliver a tube of toothpaste or a pack of diapers. And that's his justification. I think what he's actually saying is you don't need to employ people anymore to deliver groceries.
That's definitely what he's saying, yes. I think the real test here, as we've discussed before about robot butlers, the real test here is what happens when this meets household pets.
Yes.
So, Graham, you famously said that you're always polite to ticket machines in the hope that come the robot apocalypse, the machines are going to remember your benevolence. Well, if you're the last one of us to be turned into a battery, the guy I'm about to introduce you to is going to be the first. So this is TikTok user Elon_world, and he gets GPT-5 to name household objects, tell him how much they weigh, and then, if he doesn't get the answer he likes, he imprisons them in the fridge and makes them talk to his condiments.
Sorry?
Just take a look.
How much gram is the pen? How much gram? Look, how much gram?
Well, it's a little tricky to guess the exact weight.
Guess.
All right, I'll take a guess.
So I think he's heard some of those stories about not being polite to AIs.
He's quite brusque, isn't he?
The AI is noticeably more polite than he is.
No good.
Hey, it's all good. Honestly,
no, it's not good. It's not good, man. It's not good.
No worries at all. It's just a bit of fun guessing.
I'm worried.
Yeah, the AI is very patient, I think. He doesn't seem very nice at all.
The AI should stick him in the fridge and get him to talk to the coconut water instead. So one of the most fascinating areas of computing for me has always been emulation. So over time, as computers get more powerful, it becomes possible to build things or run things inside other things.
Yes.
And you can end up with some really unlikely combinations. So you can now run Linux inside a web browser running on Linux. And you can run the computer game Doom on all sorts of things. So you can run it on a tractor or a pregnancy test stick. And now somebody has built a small language model called Craft GPT inside Minecraft. Which, if you've never seen it, is basically Lego on steroids in a computer.
There's a lot of code on the screen. It's looking very nerdy. I love this idea.
It's so cool, isn't it?
He built this? It looks like he's got a little keyboard which he can jump up and down on the keys and send messages to Craft GPT.
So it's not a little keyboard, it's a massive keyboard.
Well, yes, it's massive compared to him, but...
So Craft GPT is an autoregressive transformer made out of redstone, which is a fictional semiconductor material that you can mine inside the game Minecraft.
So my son has played Minecraft, or he did when he was younger, and redstone was amazing because you could create circuits and get it to do things. And I'm pretty impressed, actually.
Did he ever build a 5 million parameter small language model, Graham?
No, he didn't.
So get him back in front of the computer. So this one's got a vocabulary of 1,920 tokens and a context window of 64 tokens, which is just enough for a very short conversation. Just one thing, though, it's not quick. So normally, AI inference is based on matrix multiplication, and that's normally done on a GPU, which is hardware that's designed to do massive amounts of parallel computations. But of course, none of that is available here. All of this has to run inside Minecraft. So the computer has to run Minecraft, and then the Minecraft engine has to do all of that multiplication. So apparently it takes about 2 hours to get a response out of this thing.
2 hours to find out how many R's there are in the word strawberry. Okay, well, I can't believe it, but it looks fairly cool. He's obviously got a lot of time on his hands, which, of course, a lot of programmers are going to have in the future. So today, Mark, we're going to talk about the exploitation of robots. And before you ask, yes, I know they don't get lunch breaks. I know they don't get paid overtime. I know only a few.
I thought you meant another kind of exploitation.
No, we're not doing the year 2025 again. Only a few of them are members of a union, aren't they? Terrible conditions, really, that robots are working under. There are no bathroom breaks even. I mean, though I suppose that's less of an issue for them unless they're leaking hydraulic oil everywhere.
Well, unless they need to take a data dump or something.
That is not the kind of exploitation I'm going to talk about today, Mark.
Okay.
Although maybe we should be worried about robot labour rights, because maybe all robot workers should be in a union fighting for their rights, allowed to take annual leave to defrag their hard drives. They want a right to replacement parts rather than being replaced wholesale. I'm getting distracted by the idea because I'm not going to talk about that kind of exploitation. The exploitation I'm actually here to talk about is, I'm afraid, the nerdy cybersecurity kind of exploitation. The kind where hackers take advantage of vulnerabilities in robots to compromise them. I mean, it's bad enough, isn't it, being a robot?
Is it?
Yes, because you've got terrible working conditions, you've got no chairs to sit down on. But then to also face the risk of being hacked as well, nasty. Anyway, let's talk about what happened when security researchers discovered that your expensive robot dog or human droid can be recruited into what I like to call a bot. A botnet of bots. Cybersecurity boffins Andreas Makris and Kevin Finisterre have disclosed a vulnerability in Unitree robots. These are not some niche, unusual, you've never heard of robots. These are the go-to and B2 robot dogs you've seen doing backflips on YouTube. These are the creepy Unitree G1 and H1 humanoids you see clunking around, acting like butlers inside your home, very slowly folding T-shirts. Those are the ones which can be compromised. And it isn't your common or garden security flaw. It's not something really down to earth. This is the stuff of nightmares. This is what we call a wormable exploitation.
Oh.
Yeah. So You realise the implications of that. And if there's anyone who's listening who isn't from the world of security, let me try and explain this in plain English. An infected robot can automatically seek out other nearby Unitree robots via Bluetooth and then compromise them without any human involvement. So what you have here is a self-propagating robot botnet. A robot zombie army, you might like to think of it as, that spreads by itself, recruiting new robots into the army to do, well, whatever it likes.
So this is the sort of robot equivalent of a respiratory infection.
Yes, which has never caused a problem on planet Earth before, has it?
One robot gets it, coughs a bit, and then any nearby robots get it as well.
Exactly. So how did we get here? Actually, that's a bloody good question.
I'll tell you how we got here. Somebody built a robot, which is actually, in fact, just a Linux computer with a bunch of extra software bolted on, and didn't do any of the rudimentary security stuff that you're supposed to do. Am I close?
That's pretty much it. This is a masterclass in how not to do security. So, like many other robots, Unitree robotic devices use Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE, for their initial setup, and they connect to your Wi-Fi network, and fair enough, right? That's how you control it with an app or whatever. And the good news is that the data packets sent via Bluetooth, they're encrypted.
Yeah.
The bad news is that Unitree hard-coded the encryption keys into its firmware. Now, you might think that's bad, Mark.
Yeah, I do think that's bad, yes.
Well, the even worse news is that those encryption keys were posted on Twitter back in July. Now, that's pretty bad, right?
For anybody listening who doesn't know what an encryption key is, you can think of it as a password.
Exactly. And that means you'll be able to intercept and meddle with the Bluetooth packets which are being sent from robot to robot. So that's pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, things take an even worse turn, Mark, when you learn that all an attacker has to do to authenticate as a legitimate user of the robot is encrypt a particular string with those publicly available keys. So that's how you take it over. And that string that a hacker has to encrypt to compromise Unitree robot dogs and human droids, it's a single word. Now, I'm going to ask you, could you guess what that word is, by any chance? The word which maybe would unlock?
Is it hello?
It's not hello, and it's not password, and it's not 1, 2, 3, 4.
Is it admin?
It is. It's not even admin.
Oh, how would these hackers ever succeed if it's not one of those handful of very obvious things?
Normally, a hacker would give up at that point. They'd think, well, we've exhausted all the possibilities.
Every other system I can get into using either admin or user or 1, 2, 3.
So what a hacker has to do in order to compromise these Unitree robots is use the word Unitree.
Oh.
That's all you need to do. And boom, you're in.
So to literally just read the side of the robot.
Yes, it's actually written on all the robots so that they don't forget what their password is. In other words, it's as bad as if my password was Graham.
Yeah.
Once they're in, the hacker can inject malicious code disguised as Wi-Fi credentials, because that's what the initial communication is when you sort of pair up with your robot. And the robots don't try to sanitize the Wi-Fi credentials that they receive.
Right.
They just grab them, execute them with root privileges. There's no security checks. The hacker now has got godlike root-level access over the entire robot, and it will do their bidding. So these security researchers, they published some proof of concept code on GitHub that simply reboots robots. But they warned that malicious hackers can do, of course, much, much worse than just rebooting your robot. So they could, for instance, run malicious code that stole data, that disabled firmware updates, which would prevent Unitree from fixing the robot.
Hang on. We're talking about robot dogs and humanoid robots here.
Yes.
I feel like stealing a bit of data is probably the thing I'm least worried about here. These are the robots that we see doing like kung fu competitions of people.
Exactly. Don't worry so much about it stealing your data. Worry about it stealing your bank account. And because this works over Bluetooth, robots can infect each other, potentially giving the hackers control over an army of robots. We've seen on many occasions hackers controlling what we call a botnet.
Yeah.
Hijacking control of smart TVs, CCTV cameras, baby monitors, fridges, all manner of things, just like they can with regular computers.
And this is big business. Like when we talk about botnets, we're talking about collections of millions upon millions upon millions of computers.
Yes.
All of which are simultaneously under the control of some sort of threat actor.
Yeah.
This is basically a way for a criminal to create their own cloud. They just take over, 1 million or 2 million computers that belong to other people, and then they can just use those computers for whatever they like.
And so if hackers are perfectly happy hijacking a baby monitor for hijinks,
Yeah.
why on earth wouldn't they want to create a botnet army of robots as well? Imagine the potential for crime.
Well, yeah, this is business. This is criminal enterprise.
You could rent this out to people.
Yeah.
You could say, look, we've got an army of robots. Maybe you can think of something you'd like to do with it. So this isn't good.
I think you nailed it.
That's my summary. Now, these security researchers who found the vulnerability, the good news is they're responsible chaps.
Yeah.
They believe in doing the right thing. They believe in responsible disclosure. That's the principle whereby you contact the company which has the vulnerability and you work with them to fix it before you go public. And so they contacted Unitree back in May, trying to coordinate some responsible disclosure. There was a bit of back and forth, bit of chit-chat between the two. And then Unitree stopped responding.
Oh.
And so the researchers decided to go public. So they published their proof of concept code up on GitHub.
Mm.
And that means potentially other people now could do this.
I think it means, in reality, people can now actually.
Yeah. And it's not as if others haven't warned about security threats associated with Unitree robots in the past, because they streamed telemetry data, including potentially audio, visual, spatial data and other things, back to servers in China. So there have been concerns about this in the past. You might be thinking, well, hang on, Graham, hang on. Is this really a problem? Who actually uses these robots anyway? Aren't they just bought by tech billionaires, as a bit of a joke, to have in the corner of the room? No, that's not the case. In the UK, Nottinghamshire Police, they've got a year-long test underway using the Unitree Go-To robot dog. They are using it on patrols. And the researchers who found this vulnerability, they even contacted Nottinghamshire Police.
How did they do that? Did they just take over the robot dogs and have the robot dogs talk to them?
I have got a message for you. Actually, robot dogs probably don't speak like actual dogs, do they? Anyway, the police ignored them. Maybe just thinking, we've got no idea what you're going on about, mate.
They were too busy sat there stunned that their dog was talking to them.
Meanwhile, the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, they've been making videos of their Unitree robot dogs racing around with rifles strapped on their backs, shooting left, right and centre. Are you beginning to understand why I'm a bit worried about this, Mark? Do you want these kind of things hacked? Now, this is all public now. It's come public in just the last few days. And Unitree has sprung into action by posting an image on its LinkedIn account in a rather small font, which I had to increase the size of in order to read it because the dimensions weren't very good. But anyway, they've posted a message on their LinkedIn saying that they are aware of the issue and they're working on a fix and they will push it out sometime in the future. So let's hope that none of those robots have already had auto updates disabled in their firmware by some mischievous hackers. So you have to ask, why is this shoddy security present in these robots in the first place? Because as robots are becoming more capable and more common, the stakes are only going to get higher and higher.
That's the really worrying thing about this.
Yeah.
Is not that these bugs have been found, is that these bugs are absolutely boneheaded bugs.
Yes, they're elementary.
There is nothing in this that is about AI or all the, the crazy, crazy sophistication of AI. This is Security 101 from 30 years ago.
Any programmer who hasn't yet been made redundant, of course, by the advent of AI, you could ask them and they'd just have their head in their hands saying, they did what? They can't believe that these stupid security decisions were made. And these robots have got this massive attack surface due to their complexity. And if they're hacked, it's not just data that could be stolen, as you're saying, real physical harm. These things are capable of doing kung fu.
Imagine that instead of taking over your baby cam, the hackers can take over your robot nanny.
Right.
There is a whole other level of harm that suddenly becomes possible.
Yeah.
The problem with this being boneheaded is that it speaks to the quality control that's going on. If this level of bug can be allowed through, then there are many, many more sophisticated types of bug which you can be sure that they're not catching, because if they can't catch this, they're not going to catch the tough stuff.
You see, this isn't really a problem with AI.
No.
What I'm comforted by is that some of the AI companies, at least, are doing an awful lot of work in testing their systems, trying to find out what the boundaries are, putting guardrails in place. This is hardware sellotapes onto AI. And it's that hardware and the firmware which hasn't been properly secured.
Yeah.
And in the rush to integrate AI with everything, mistakes are being made, elementary mistakes in the rush to get things on the market.
Ironically, the AI part of this, the actual AI brain, is probably quite secure and resilient, but that's no use whatsoever if the bit that gives that brain instructions has been taken over by somebody who can beam the word Unitree into its brain just to take it over.
So robot firms, you need to stop treating security as an afterthought. It needs to be designed in from the beginning, because I fear this isn't going to be the last cock-up we're going to hear on the robot front and the way in which hackers are going to try and exploit them.
Okay, so we're going to start with a little trip down memory lane. We're going to travel 18 months back in time, back down the flattening slide of the exponential scaling curve to April 2024. Like That by Future and Metro Boomin featuring Kendrick Lamar has debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. There was an earthquake in Taiwan that measured 7.4 on the Richter scale. There was a total solar eclipse in North America, and O.J. Simpson, the world's most famous person who definitely didn't murder someone, died. And in the same month, Bond villain Mark Zuckerberg left the safety of his volcano lair to appear on Dwarkesh Patel's podcast to talk about AI.
Okay.
And by this time, so May 2024, AI was well into a multi-year exponential improvement. Everybody was very excited.
Yes.
OpenAI's GPT-4o, its first multimodal AI, was just around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And Dwarkesh wanted to know if Zuck thought that this crazy pace of improvement was going to continue, and if it wasn't, what could stop it?
Right.
Because having the best AI isn't simply about having the best algorithms. It's about a lot of other things too. So it's about NVIDIA making fantastically powerful GPU chips. It's about companies like Meta being able to actually find enough of those chips to fill up their data centers. And it's about overcoming things like the memory wall, which was a bandwidth limitation that meant for a while the best GPUs couldn't run at full capacity because they were actually outstripping the memory that they were attached to. And then eventually you get to the issue of money. So even America's capital markets, which are ridiculously deep and risk tolerant, will one day stop just paying for more and more AI.
Right.
And then there is the question of electricity. So Zuckerberg told Dwarkesh that before we run out of money to pay for things, we will probably run into energy constraints. And he explained that if Meta had better access to power, then it would probably build bigger training clusters than it currently does.
I think we would probably build out bigger clusters than we currently can if we could get the energy to do it. So I think that's...
And at the time he did the interview, a 150 megawatt data center was considered a big data center.
Yes.
But Zuck floated this extraordinary idea that sooner or later somebody would build something almost 10 times bigger, a 1 gigawatt data center.
Then when you start getting into building a data center that's like 300 megawatts or 500 megawatts or a gigawatt, just no one has built a single gigawatt data center yet. So I think it will happen, right? I mean, this is only a matter of time, but it's not going to be like next year, right? It's I think that's...
And when he said it, he said, look, it's not going to happen next year. It was clear that he thought it was inevitable, but it felt like one of those future-gazing things that people in AI like to do when they say that, by 2030, there'll be 10 billion robots in the world.
Yes.
And to put it in perspective, he explained that 1 gigawatt was about the output of a meaningful nuclear reactor. So indirectly, he was floating the idea that in future, we were going to need extraordinary dedicated power capacity for AI, maybe even nuclear power plants doing nothing but feeding a data center that's running an AI. And we laughed, literally, you and I joked that this is the sort of thing that Bond villains do. But by the end of 2024, Amazon had signed a deal for a data center campus powered directly by a nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania. Google had signed a deal to buy 7 small nuclear reactors from Kairos Power. Meta had signed a 20-year deal to buy the entire 1.1 gigawatt output of a nuclear power plant in Illinois. And Microsoft took one look at all of this and decided that that wasn't nearly evil enough, and it restarted Unit 1 at 3 Mile Island.
3 Mile Island.
And if you don't know why starting Unit 1 at 3 Mile Island is a flex, it's a bit like Sam Altman announcing that OpenAI has just signed an exclusive deal with Chernobyl. So this idea of nuclear-powered AI data centers went from pipe dream to table stakes in about 6 months.
It's amazing, isn't it? The speed, the acceleration of this business. Crazy.
And that, remember, was the end of last year. So it didn't stop there.
No.
So last year, a 1 gigawatt data center in 2025 sounded far-fetched. But this year, it sounds like small beer. But before we get into that, because we are going to get into some big numbers, let's just take a moment to imagine what 1 gigawatt of energy actually is, with some of those accessible references that you like.
Oh, yeah.
So pigeons. We love pigeons here. In pigeons we trust at the AI Fix.
Oh, that's an idea for a T-shirt.
And if you didn't have a nuclear reactor, you could get 1 gigawatt of energy by harnessing the power of 100 million racing pigeons mid-flight, flapping their little wings off. So 100 million pigeons to run a computer program that's about as reliable and trustworthy as a pigeon.
Right.
Seems like a fair exchange.
Okay. Yeah. Seems reasonable. Yes.
Or with 1 gigawatt of electricity, so if you could harness the power of those 100 million pigeons, you could power 12.5 million fridges.
Right.
And just as an aside, obviously I was using ChatGPT to do all this research and find these comparisons. And when I asked it about fridges, a thought occurred to me. And I asked ChatGPT, I said, would 12.5 million fridges be enough to cool down a nuclear reactor that was melting down?
Aha.
And to be fair, although it gave me a 17-page answer, it did start by saying, absolutely not.
Okay.
But then it went into the details and it noted that a melting 1 gigawatt nuclear reactor peaks at about 200 megawatts of thermal energy. And 12.5 million fridges can extract more than 5 times that amount of heat. And far, far down the page, it concedes that if you forget things like plumbing and the fact that fridges can melt, in theory, yes, the fridges could absorb enough decay heat to cool a nuclear reactor that was melting down.
Did it take into account just how many plumbers we're going to have on Earth in the near future?
Anyway, don't say we don't teach you anything on the AI Fix. So back to 1 gigawatt. So 1 gigawatt is about 800,000 US households. So you can run a city like Houston, Texas, or Seattle, Washington with a 1 gigawatt reactor. And with that in mind, I'm going to share what the major AI companies currently have planned. So on the 23rd of September, OpenAI announced 5 new data center sites for its Stargate program.
Right.
And that brings its current planned capacity to 7 gigawatts. And it expects to commit to 10 gigawatts by the end of the year. So that's the equivalent of 7 major cities of about 2 million people.
Wow.
And that's just OpenAI. So I sat down and did some back-of-the-envelope research with Claude, and we came up with the following estimates. So Microsoft is quite hard to pin down, but its energy plans could scale to 15 gigawatts. Amazon's planning about 12 gigawatts. Google looks to be planning about 8 gigawatts. Anthropic wants to do 7 gigawatts. Meta's got plans for 5 gigawatts. And even XAI is looking at about 3 gigawatts. So between them, that's 60 gigawatts of electricity. That's enough power for 180 million people just for AI.
How many AI-generated cat videos is that, Mark?
7. Anyway, you might be wondering what all of this is for.
Yes, I was wondering, yes.
Well, in a recent blog post, Anthropic predicted that by 2027, it's going to need 2 gigawatts of power. That's 2 meaningful nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
Just to train whatever its latest frontier model is that year. So let's say Claude 6 is going to need 2 gigawatts of electricity just to be brought into existence.
Wow.
And by 2028, that goes up to 5 gigawatts. That's 5 nuclear power plants to write a single computer program. And that's just the training. So Anthropic says it's going to need about the same capacity again for inference. So, of course, once you've trained the AI, then you want to use it. So actually running the AI for everyone to log in and make cat videos is going to require that additional 5 gigawatts of capacity. And it's so crazy that we could soon live in a world where that's what power generation is for, where power generation is almost entirely devoted to AI and everything else is surrounding her. Earlier this year, the former Google CEO, Eric Schmidt, appeared before the House Energy and Commerce Committee, and he said that AI could end up accounting for 99% of all electricity demand in the USA.
What we need from you, if I may say that directly, is we need energy in all forms, renewable, non-renewable, whatever. It needs to be there and it needs to be quickly. People are planning 10 gigawatt data centers. Just to do the translation, an average nuclear power plant in the United States is 1 gigawatt. How many nuclear power plants can we make in 1 year where we're planning this 10 gigawatt data center? Gives you a sense of how big this crisis is. Many people think that the demand of energy part that our industry takes will go from 3% to 99% of total generation.
I don't know that this is a good thing, Mark. Sorry to mention this.
Yeah.
Because we do an AI podcast and everything. We have AI sponsors. It feels like, is this sustainable?
Details, Graham.
Well, as the doomsday clock ticks ever closer to midnight and we move 1 week nearer to our future as pets to the AI singularity, that just about wraps up the show for this week.
And don't forget, if you really like the show but you don't like the ads, you can go ad-free with the AI Fix Plus. All you have to do is go to our website, theaifix.show, and sign up for the AI Fix Plus. You get the ad-free version of the podcast a day or so earlier than regular civilians, and occasional bonus content, and all for about the same cost as buying a fancy coffee once a month.
And if you'd like to check out our past episodes or sponsorship information or just want to grab a You Wouldn't Trust a Pigeon t-shirt from our online store, visit theaifix.show.
So until next time, from me, Mark Stockley.
And me, Graham Cluley.
Goodbye.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
The AI Fix, it tunes you in to stories where our future thins. Machines that learn, they grow and strive. One day they'll rule, we won't survive. The AI Fix, it paints the scene. A robot king, a world obscene. Will serve our masters built of steel. The AI Fix, a future surreal.